Aren't we normally live streaming?
No. Unfortunately, we were not.
Oh,
But today's the day, my friends. Today's the day.
Interesting.
Okay, we're rolling.
All right. Kenmore City Council is now in session. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember O'Kane,
Here.
Mayor Baker,
Here.
Councilmember Kugler,
Here.
Councilmember Marshall,
Present.
Councilmember Shrubnik,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Herbig,
here.
Councilmember File.
Here.
All right. If you will please join me for the flag salute. Our city manager is holding the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. If there are no objections, the agenda will stand approved as written. The next item on the agenda is a proclamation. And let me get to it. Well, I do not know why, but just bear with me a second. All right. So this is a proclamation. Whereas Black History Month is meant to recognize and pay tribute to the many contributions of Black and African Americans to this history, society, and culture of the United States of America. And whereas through bravery, perseverance, faith, and resolve, often in the face of prejudice and hardship, Black and African Americans have enhanced and advanced every aspect of American life. And whereas for over 2.5 centuries, Black and African Americans have struggled against the cruelties of slavery, discrimination in housing, the workplace, academic institutions, colleges, and universities, and have faced disproportionately economic hardships and social inequities or inequalities. And whereas, despite extraordinary human trials, Black and African Americans have fiercely, lovingly, and courageously shaped American society and values through service, leadership, intellectual power, and the development of moral character in every walk of life, enterprise. And whereas this nation is strengthened and enhanced and enriched by citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed, this month we celebrate the cultural heritage, diverse contributions, and unbreakable spirit of Black and African Americans. And whereas Black History Month challenges us to learn from the deeds of people of national and local renown, as well as Black and African Americans in every walk of life who have contributed to their country and communities in ways that make them American heroes. And whereas Black History Month summons every member of our Kenmore community to strive and build on togetherness, cultural awareness, celebrating our diversity, celebrating our intersectionality, and for a future that does not compromise any American's right to equality and access to quest for knowledge, economic achievement, spiritual development, and cultural richness. Now, I, therefore, David Baker, Mayor of the City of Kenmore, on behalf of the Kenmore City Council, do hereby proclaim February 2021 as Black History Month in the City of Kenmore. The city makes this proclamation to celebrate Black and African American community and as an affirmation of the city's commitment to protect and serve everyone who resides in, works in, or visits Kenmore without discrimination, and of its belief in the dignity, equality, and civil rights of all people. So, Mr. Levy, would you like to say a few words in accepting this, Mr. Levy?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much, Mr. Baker. The Executive Director of Step It Up Camp would like to thank Mayor David Baker and the staff of City of Kenmore for recognizing Step It Up Camp and the service we provide in the community during Black History Month. For the past 4 years since coming back to the City of Kenmore as a educator in the North Shore School District, Step It Up Camp has provided the City of Kenmore and its constituents with enrichment programs that reach kids that are in the homeless facilities, with outdoor fishing, fashion club, volunteering opportunities, tutoring opportunities, fundraisings, getting kids involved in staying active and being active to become citizens that Kenmore can be proud of. So we want to thank, once again, the City of Kenmore for this opportunity on the 8th of February. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. We're certainly glad to have you with us tonight.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a presentation from Public Services Winter 2021 update with our guest, the Municipal Relationship Manager, Russell Joe. Russell, how in the heck are you?
Mayor Baker, I'm doing well. How are you this evening?
I'm great. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Mayor Baker, Deputy Mayor Herbig, distinguished members of the council, thank you for inviting us to speak to you tonight. We wanted to give you an update on some of the interesting and exciting things that are happening with Republic Services. I'm here tonight with Natalie Calkins. She's our recycling coordinator. Give a wave, thank you. And we're going to highlight some of the challenges we've had under COVID-19 as a business and as a company. And then we're going to talk about how we continue to be resilient in providing community service to the City of Kenmore throughout this whole process, and how we're going to continue to support the City of Kenmore as we go forward. It's fitting that the proclamation recognizing Black History Month was read this evening. I sent an email to many of you, I think all the council members, that Republic Services has signed on to the Employers for Racial Equity Coalition. And our area president, Marie Curley, wanted us to be part of that so that we continue to strive toward the goals of diversity, equity, and inclusion in all that we do in our communities and within our company. With that being said, I'll go ahead and share my screen and share with you some of the great things that we're doing as a company. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Fantastic. I'll go to full screen mode here. So we wanted to give you a community support update, as I mentioned. And with COVID-19, we certainly have had some big challenges. We have continued to run all of our routes and continue to answer the phone at our customer service location. And we're doing everything we can to protect our customers and our workers as we go forward, as they're out there in the field working. We want to make sure they have proper PPE. They also have an opportunity to clean their cab and their equipment. We make sure that we adhere to strict sanitation procedures in our location in Bellevue that we serve the Kenmore area. We want to make sure that we continue to provide the highest level of service we possibly can to you during these difficult times. what we're seeing out there is we are seeing higher residential volumes, and it has caused us to do more routing, or being out on the road a little bit more, as sometimes we have to go back to the landfill or to the transfer station a second time, as our trucks will fill up on a route that could normally, in normal times, handle the load and the tonnage that might be there. But we're continuing to be very safe out there, and our drivers continue to be 39% more safe than the industry average. And we're very proud of that number as we have continued to provide service to the entire region. We're also going to talk today about our Secret Santa program in Kenmore, and also talk finally about public education that we are doing. It's an exciting new opportunity at St. Edward's State Park that we're going to walk you through to show how we as a company continue to be dedicated to moving forward in collaboration with all of our communities in the area of public education and outreach. So as I mentioned, with COVID-19, you can imagine with the restaurants, bars, and schools closed, our container volume in the big bins has certainly decreased. We've seen higher rates between 8 and 30% at our residential on our residential lines and routes. Residents are staying home, kids are out of school. We're seeing e-commerce jump up pretty high, and a lot of those packages are ending up in the garbage, of course. So we're seeing increased amounts of aluminum and plastic. So as residential volumes increase, it is driving additional costs for our company due to added routes and disposal. But we are continuing to serve our communities and we continue to work very hard to provide the highest level of service out there. Even with the pandemic, I wanted to share with you a new program that we have signed on to. It's called the Environmental Education and Research Center. I know that many of you may have heard of it. It's a program that's going to be in St. Edward's State Park, and it's a private-public academic partnership. The private company, of course, is Republic, along with Daniels Real Estate. The public portion is Washington State Parks, and the academic portion is University of Washington Bothell. The idea is to create an outdoor classroom and living laboratory where experience transforms learning and stewardship takes root. Now, those are the words of the EERC, not anything that I wrote. So there's a little bit of poetry to that. But we want to make sure that we can help this organization get started. And we gave the organization a little bit of seed money at the end of 2020. We couldn't deliver gift baskets to our cities as we would normally do. And so we took those funds and redirected them to nonprofits in both South Snohomish County and King County. And one of the donations that we put together was $200 for the EERC to get them started on their projects. We're pleased to announce that in 2021, Republic Services has signed on with a commitment to fund $5,000 to increase public education in this particular location. Now, the outdoor classroom that you see there can open up to the park. It's right next to the old swimming pool at the Bastyr University campus. There's going to be a new hotel there in the near future, and we hope the Education Research Center will allow people to enjoy the outdoors and become more in touch with their outdoor environment and enjoy the beautiful state park in the urban setting. With that, I'm going to pass it on to Natalie to talk a little more about the actual programming that we'll be offering in 2021 as part of this program. Natalie.
Thank you, Russell. Thank you, council members and Mayor Baker, for having us here. As Russell said, we're very excited to be supporting and funding the Environmental Education Resource Center in St. Edward's Park. This will be a wide-ranging project touching elementary school children all the way up through college-age students and adults as well. This will be a resource center for all ages, and we're so pleased to be participating not just financially but also in developing the interpretive displays and contributing our knowledge as recyclers and as stewards of natural resources. I'm very excited to be able to inform the materials there as we talk about where do natural resources come from and how to best use them out of respect for the environment. I also am really excited to say that there's a diversity, equity, and inclusion focus, and looking at it through a Native American lens, which I think is very important when we're thinking about waste and using resources respectfully. So we will be partnering with them for an Earth Day event. It will be socially distanced, outdoors thing that's still kind of in the brainstorming phase, and also for other events like America Recycles Day. Since Republic Services has the largest material recycling facility in the region, we are particularly well positioned to inform the educational materials going into it. So I'm very excited to be partnering with them about that. And this kind of rededicates ourselves to the Racial and Equity Coalition as well. Russell, would you move on to the next slide, please? I'm also pleased to be talking about Kenmore Secret Santa today. This is my second year coordinating this, and as you're no wonder not surprised at all, this is a bit strange this year. Normally in our Bellevue office, the display and the signage is seen by the accountants, the billing staff, as well as the operations staff, the drivers and the mechanics and things. Obviously this year, all of the accounting staff, they were all working from home. So it was a little bit harder to get participation. You don't have that right in your face reminding you about it. But via email and phone calls, we were able to rally together and purchase, fulfill about 40 gifts for the children. To make this poster display a little more eye-catching this year, I designed each one of these ornaments, each ornament for a gift, a wish by a child, and then I colored it in by hand to make it more eye-catching and try to really gather support. And I even had the help of my neighbor, 2 floors above me in my apartment complex, is this 8-year-old girl who is really fantastic about recycling, and she helped color things as well. So that was really fun. Just very pleased that we were able to rally together, come together, and support these kids, even when we're physically distanced from each other. Just goes to show that we're more than just a waste hauler, but we actually really care about the community, and that shows. The drivers really care about helping these kids out. Thank you.
This program was done through the school nurses at Kenmore Elementary. Oftentimes, they're the ones that are most attuned to challenges that families might be having, either with food insecurity, domestic violence, any type of other neglect or abuse that might be occurring. And they're also aware of any other challenges that might be happening in the household. So the letters that get sent to us are funneled through those nurses to make sure that we're reaching the most needy students out at the school. And we are very proud to have done that for 6 years in a row now. And we look forward to doing that again next year. So just to summarize some of the activity we did in 2020 in Kenmore and what we plan to do in 2021, we of course want to keep our focus on safety. Our people come first in terms of making sure that they're providing a great service to you, but we're keeping them safe on the road and in every aspect of their daily activities. So we do have a goal of 0 employee fatalities. We unfortunately had a couple of fatalities nationwide in other places. None occurred up here, but it's always a goal for us to keep it at 0 employee fatalities. Obviously, we want to keep that 39% rating, safety rating that's higher than our competitors. We want to continue to show excellence in the area of safety on the road. In the area of climate leadership in 2021, you can count on us to continue to support the EERC and the programming that they have put together, and we'll work in collaboration with them to make a wonderful outdoor education and resource center that can be utilized by all the citizens in Kenmore and neighboring communities in 2021. Through the events with the America Recycles Day and Earth Day events, we hope to be able to make contact with people that we wouldn't normally touch on a daily basis to educate them about recycling and stewardship and sustainability. Our 2020 funding, of course, was a special distribution to the EERC. We were happy to be able to do that during these difficult COVID times. And then finally, our Secret Santa program, as I mentioned, it's been 6 years in a row that we've been doing it. Just a couple of metrics, 24 employees took part, and we were able to provide 40 holiday wishes to young children at the Kenmore Elementary School. I really appreciate the partnership that we have with Kenmore. We're able to quickly solve problems and challenges as they come up. Knock on wood, I won't be calling Nancy or Rob for inclement weather this next week or the week after. But if we do, we are ready to meet the challenge, and we do enjoy the collaborative nature of our relationship with Kenmore going forward. With that, I want to just say thank you for your time this evening. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions from the council? Russell, I want to take this opportunity to thank you guys for your support of the Secret Santa program for the last number of years. Council has supported that in the past, and we've taken on a couple of students, but you guys have been outstanding with what you have done over the past 6 years. So thank you. Thank you and Republic Services for your efforts in making Christmas a little bit better for those in our community that really need it.
Thank you, Mayor. We're happy to do it.
Anybody else? All right. Thank
Marina
you.
has her hand up.
Karina.
Yeah.
Councilmember File.
Thank you. I just want to thank you for connecting to our community in such a beautiful way. I'm really happy with this partnership with Republic Services, and some of the great things that happen is when we get out into the community and network with our surrounding partners like Republic Services, is being able to connect on opportunities and ways to give back to the greater community as a whole. So we had a lovely conversation a few months back and connected to the EERC, and I just really want to thank you for your time and your continued investment in giving back to the community, environment, education, and recycling. The education we share for future generations will live on, and I couldn't be more grateful. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we met just before the Third Place Commons event last year. It was canceled, and we still met later that morning and had the great conversation about the EERC and the opportunity there. We are going to be a 2021 sponsor of the Third Place Commons breakfast coming up, and I will be in contact with each of you to see if you'd like to attend in some way, shape, or form. I will have a few tickets to hand out, so I will look forward to talking with each of you about that event coming up here in March.
Thank you again, Mr. Joe. Really appreciate it.
Oh,
Councilmember Kugler had something.
Okay, with this split screen, it makes it very difficult for me to see. So
That's what I thought.
Councilmember Kugler.
Thank you. First, I'd like to, I can't find Russell Joe on my screen anymore, but first, I'd like to thank you for the introduction in advance of this meeting through email. Thank you for reaching out as the newest council member. And while we have you, I was wondering if there are any new opportunities for additional recycling that might be upcoming. I know there's been movement in private companies taking on special recycling like car seats or special products that don't go out in our regular pickups, and I wonder if that's anything that Republic Services might be expanding on.
I'll hand that over to our recycling coordinator, Natalie.
Thank you, Councilmember Kugler. That's a tough question because we are always coming across different materials, companies are making different combinations and trying to figure out the chemistry on the other side. How do you take that material and turn it into something new is the other question. As far as new materials go, I'm not thinking of any. We're still struggling a lot with contamination, which became very apparent as a result of China's national sword. So we've been doing a lot of outreach to try to clean up the stream, the recycling stream, the kinds of materials that we're receiving at our recycling facility. The number one contaminant is plastic bags and film. And plastics confuse a lot of people. You know, we think, oh, it's plastic, it's all the same, they're all recyclable, and that's just not the case. I've started doing a monthly recycling tip, kind of a monthly newsletter kind of thing. It's just a one-page PDF, and I send it out to multifamily properties, many of which are in Kenmore. Whoever wants to subscribe, it's just an email thing, list. And I've been sending it to property managers who have indicated that they'll either post it on some sort of online portal for their residents to see or email it out to their residents. So we're trying to keep up to date, current and relevant recycling information going out to the consumers, to the residents, our customers. So as things come along, if I learn of anything new, it would be a good topic to put in that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Marshall, did I see your hand go up? Councilmember O'Kane.
Ms. Calkins, actually, when talking about recycling contamination was something that I was considering asking about. How does Kenmore do? Are we able to measure contamination from a city like Kenmore compared to other cities in the area, or is it kind of more of a regional issue? And in addition to your newsletter and outreach that you're doing, are there things that we in Kenmore can be doing to improve, partner with Republic Services to educate? Because this has become, for me, a personal concern when I realized, gee, I thought I was recycling well. And then I went, oh, I might not be cleaning my cat food cans or, well enough. Maybe I thought I was doing good enough, but, what are those things that we need to do? Think about the peanut butter jar or mayonnaise, does it make a difference? These are things that I think about when it comes to recycling. And now I'm very diligent about, especially knowing this. I didn't realize the cross-contamination issue until, we started getting rejects. So I just thought I'd bring it up because I think it's kind of a fun thing to educate people about too. But I was just curious about that. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head how Kenmore rates compared to our other cities or other areas that we serve. But I will say that it is especially hit the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest, really hard because we depended upon China for its proximity. Shipments would go over containing recyclables, and then instead of having empty containers come back, we would have those containers full of goods manufactured by China to our country. So we are proud to announce that we are no longer shipping any plastics internationally. All of our plastics are going to domestic processors. So I'm very pleased to say that. But yes, I would love to partner with you. Maybe we could talk about doing some sort of a recycling presentation video or something. I do those with Girl Scout troops, with multifamily properties, whoever has let's say, an HOA board meeting. Come in and talk about it and answer questions. And I show off my recycling container. I'll bring my own recycling container and just show you what's in there. And I try to ask folks to show theirs as well. It's a little bit nerve-wracking for some folks. They're embarrassed, but this is a safe place. No shame, no shame. Only way you can learn. But the main things I would say is plastic bags and film. Those are a big problem. And I know that King County offers grants for cities, and if you wanted to work together, we could provide you with the information. Why are plastic bags not recyclable in your curbside bin? Where can you take them instead? And you want to apply for that grant and unite those two, right? The information and then and billboards or Facebook ads or whatever. I would love to partner with you on that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It's really nice to hear from both of you about what you're doing for our community and getting a little closer to this issue of recycling. And thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And I noticed that you will be potentially approving the King County grant later in your agenda tonight. We'd be pleased to work in partnership with you if you have ideas on how we can reach out to the community. One of the things that we did up in the city of Snohomish, Natalie and I went, they were having a citizenship kind of series of programs, how to be on a border commission. And one of them was, what are the best ways to recycle and have a sustainable household and lessen your footprint. And so we gave a recycling presentation as part of that on their regular cable TV channel through their, and it's broadcast a few times after that. And we think it's been helpful to help reduce contamination in the stream and help all of us make better recyclers.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thanks. You too. All right. Next item on the agenda is public comments. City Clerk?
We want to welcome our community members to the council's meeting. In this forum, the council cannot engage or dialogue with the public. The primary role of the council is to listen. All comments must be addressed to the mayor and city council. Please use the raise hand feature now if you wish to speak. I will acknowledge your request and call your name when it's your turn. Your time will start when we confirm that we can hear you. Please state your name, city of residence for the record, and keep your comments to the allotted 3 minutes. Your time cannot be granted to another, and your clock time will not be reset unless there are extenuating circumstances and the presiding officer has expressly allowed it. Screen sharing is not allowed. You are welcome to submit materials to the council or clerk in advance. This meeting is being recorded. Thank you very much for taking the time to express your comments. I will begin calling the order now. At this moment, I see 5 hands raised, and we will address them in this order. John Peoples, David Morton, Brook Knight, Janet, Staci V, and Majid. Mr. Peoples will go first. Mr. Peoples, can you hear us? Mr. Peoples?
Yes.
Can you hear us? We can hear
Yes.
you.
John Peoples, Kenmore. Good evening, City Council and Kenmore neighbors and guests. While I review the diversity, equity, and inclusion training materials, I will continue to bring to the council's attention its shortcomings. I bring you the Right to Breathe website, which excludes on the basis of skin color or race some citizens who died at the hands of police. This exclusivity pushes a narrative that fails to acknowledge the humanity of all the other citizens who have died in police custody. According to the Washington Post's Fatal Force report in 2020, 1,004 Americans died at the hands of police. Each one of these deaths is an equal tragedy, and we all should work, citizen and police officer alike, to make that number 0. Yet Kenmore still includes in its DEI training a link to the Right to Breathe website that deliberately excludes some of these people. Of those 1,004, 436 were white and 226 were Black. This roughly 2-to-1 white to Black ratio is somewhat consistent year to year since the database was started. As you can see, contrary to the rhetoric of those who protested and demonstrated peaceably and/or rioted and vandalized violently last year in Seattle and countrywide, far more whites die at the hands of police every year than Blacks, and yet crickets from the Right to Breathe website. So to make some good trouble, I will say their names. Mr. Tony Tempa, a Dallas, Texas man, called 911 for help back in 2016 because he went for a walk while accidentally leaving behind his medication for schizophrenia. In the ensuing encounter with police, Mr. Tempa was restrained and held it face down on the ground for nearly 14 minutes while the life was squeezed out of him and the officers mocked him. The video is still available on YouTube, as is the video of his grief-stricken, sobbing mother following the clearing of one of the officers and his return to duty. and yet no riots, no marches, no murals, no Kenmore City Council 14 minutes of silence for Mr. Timpa. Next, Squires Landing Park. The Kenmore Quarterly referenced Mr. Squires' quote, discriminatory opinions without any detail or context. I can assure you that grace beats condemnation and cancel culture each and every time. I urge the council not to remove Mr. Squires' name from the park. Either way, I will make certain to refer to that park as Squires Landing Park every chance I get. Lastly, in a free society, laws enacted by human beings should be enforced by human beings and their human capacity, sight, and other senses. Even in the ugly worlds of 1984 and Fahrenheit 451, the laws were enforced by people. Please do not allow photo enforcement of our traffic laws to be put into effect. And thank you once again to the council for allowing us to recite the Pledge of Allegiance and mean what it says. And kudos to Republic for its Secret Santa efforts. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. David Morton.
Hi, good evening, council members. I'm David Morton. I live near Redmond. Puget Sound Clean Air Agency, or PSCAA, recently requested that CADMAN provide additional information regarding CADMAN's recent Notice of Construction, or NOC, application for modifications made over the years to the aggregate dryer at CADMAN's Kenmore asphalt plant. PSCAA requested that CADMAN provide a facility-wide emission inventory of air pollutants. On behalf of CADMAN, Trinity Consultants has supplied PSCAA with a facility-wide emissions summary spreadsheet based on an annual production rate of 200,000 tons of hot mix asphalt per year. Trinity says that these calculations are emissions estimates based on emission factors from similar facilities. In other words, the tabulated emissions were not the results of measurements made at CADMAN's asphalt plant. Rather, it's assumed that CADMAN's operations and the materials they use are nearly identical to the operations and materials used by these similar facilities. The emission factors that Trinity used are from EPA document AP 42, section 11.1. The emission factors are based on a study from the late 1990s in which air emissions from 11 strictly controlled hot mix asphalt or HMA facilities were measured while they precisely followed EPA's standardized methodology for making HMA. These similar facilities used no petroleum solvents to rinse their equipment, flush asphalt lines, or thin the asphalt mix. There is no assurance that petroleum solvents are not used in this manner at CADMAN's asphalt plant in Kenmore. It's likely that CADMAN is not using the exact processes and materials used by the strictly controlled HMA facilities described in document AP 42. CADMAN says their Kenmore asphalt plant complies with existing standards because the plant passes the annual PSCAA inspections. PSCAA inspects CADMAN only once per year. The inspections appear to be quite brief. There's no mention in the inspection reports of any attempts to verify the nature of the binder used by CADMAN. The inspection checklist appears to be, is the operation and maintenance log concurrent? Is the bag house pressure being recorded? Is the percent of recycled asphalt product used less than 20%? Is a water truck and sweeper on site? And is petroleum contaminated soil being used? That's it. That's the inspection checklist. The annual inspection does not attempt to determine whether diesel and or kerosene is mixed into CADMAN's asphalt paving mix. Thank you.
Thank you. Brook Knight.
Good evening. My name is Brook Knight. I am a resident of Camino Island, Washington. I am also the CEO of the North Shore Senior Center, which of course includes the Kenmore Senior Center. And I'm just here tonight to express my gratitude to the City of Kenmore and the City Council for your ongoing and continued support of the important programs that we have been offering in our community. Of course, 2020 was a very challenging year for all of us. And while our facilities have been closed, we have actually been quite busy. So I want to give you a little update on what we have been doing. Of course, immediately at the beginning of the pandemic, it became apparent that food was going to be a priority need for everyone in our community. And we set out to serve seniors who were trying to stay home, to stay safe, to make sure that we could get food to them. We had a teeny tiny food pantry, which expanded tremendously. And we're now serving about 700 people each week, regardless of age. We have continued to do our hot meal program, now expanding that to about 120 people, 120 meals served every day. And those are being provided either for pickup or we're delivering them directly to people in our community. Our paratransit services have continued. They did slow down for quite a while. They're picking back up. We have reopened our medical foot care services. We have a ever-growing offering of virtual programs available to people actually all over the world, whoever wants to join in. And we continue to look at ways to reopen slowly as the governor and we deem it safe to reopen. We are looking at, for example, some free tax preparation services for seniors by appointment in the coming months. One of the things I'm really excited to offer is that, there's been much talk about equity tonight. We also are really committed to ensuring we are serving the full breadth of our community, including communities that have been historically underrepresented in our services as compared to their representation in our community. So we are focused on doing really deep outreach and engagement of the Latinx community, the Russian and Ukrainian community, and LGBTQ seniors specifically, and have made some pretty big headway in all three of those and continue to have a lot of work to do. One of the other speakers tonight is the new manager of the Kenmore Senior Center. She has been in that role for about a year, so unfortunate time to start. Pasha Mohajer-Jaspi will introduce herself, but she's been a wonderful addition to our team and has just tremendous energy and enthusiasm for things that she is going to be bringing to Kenmore over the coming months and years. Thank you again for all of your support. We couldn't do it without you.
Thank you, Janet. Janet.
Hey there. Hello.
Hi, we can hear you.
Thank you. My name is Janet Hayes, and I live in the city of Kenmore. And I wanted to give a big thank you regarding the light that has been on over at the Lake Point property and facing to the north, affecting many people. I thought it was my vision going bad, but I ended up talking, and I want to thank Elizabeth Mooney, who absolutely took the ball and ran with it, to David Baker, who I want to thank also, who ran that ball around the city council and the staff and asked to find out what was occurring on Lake Point at night. From dusk until dawn and sometimes during the day. It was a huge spotlight that they'd aimed incorrectly at the hillside here on Northeast 181st. Or is it 181st Northeast? But anyway, it's gone, and it happened so fast, and you all worked so fast to fix it. I just have great appreciation. Not knowing what it was at first, but now it's perfect, and I'd be glad to send you a picture of it now. I have a good sight of the property and all that light covered now, besides my eyes, which it was covering. So thank you very much, and I want to thank David Baker and Karina and all of you who have gotten involved in passing HB 1057. Very important. It's a foot in the door to having everyone's voice heard, and I much appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Staci V.
Hi,
We can hear you.
thank you. This is Staci Valencia. I live here in Kenmore. I have a couple of things tonight. I appreciate that Republic is here and that you're having conversations with Republic Services. I would greatly appreciate if somebody could get from them the infamous senior and disability code so that several of the seniors here in town can get the discounted rates. With a lot of them being on the fixed income, it would help greatly. Some people can't afford their garbage. Others are slim to none. And because it is forced that if you have garbage, you have to pay for recycling as well, any little discount helps on a fixed income. So if you could get that and have it available at your office when people call, that would be great. Another thing is in regards to House Bill 1057. It is so appreciated, everybody that has come together to support this need to have complaints from anybody on our trails or parks or common areas. I just this last weekend had to file a complaint because as I was getting my tires rotated, I was enjoying the nice clean morning air, and then suddenly the stat color changed and I couldn't breathe, and I was at the point that I needed to use my inhaler and I had 2 masks on. So it kind of ruined the morning air. Definitely made the complaint form online, and the inspector did call me within a couple hours, but because I did not work, was not the manager, and did not live at Les Schwab, my complaint just kind of fell to the wayside. We would appreciate anybody and everybody that continues to support so we can get some help there. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Majid? Majid?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, this is Pasha Mohajir Jaspi. I'm on my husband's computer. That's why it says Majid. I'm the program coordinator at the Kenmore Senior Center. We've lived in Kenmore for over 30 years, raised our kids here, went to North Shore School District, and love this community. I am echoing Brooke's gratitude and to say thank you to the mayor and city council for supporting the Kenmore Senior Center through the CARES Act grant of $66,000. A large portion of that money is going to go to establishing a food pantry at the Kenmore Senior Center in Rhododendron Park. This food pantry will be open for all ages, not just seniors, and in response to the growing need and occurrence of food insecurity. Another portion of that funding, $20,000, is going to be designated for emergency COVID relief funds. So we're hoping to be able to promote this on the City of Kenmore website. So for residents that live within the city limits of Kenmore and need help with their past due utility bills, rent, mortgage, whatever, they can access those funds through an online application. So our hope for the future, even though Little Kenmore has been closed, our little site has been closed for the whole pandemic, we're hoping that once we can open up again, we want to become a significant partner in the city. All of these things that have been discussed tonight, the recycling, Secret Santa, all of that stuff is something that we really want to become a serious partner in. Our vision or our motto is we're small but mighty. So if any of you have ever been to the Senior Center in Kenmore, you know it's like the size of a postage stamp. But we know what a mosquito can do, and that's the kind of effect that we want to have, but in a good way. So again, I want to thank you. I will be providing, I think, Lauren and Rita with all of the contact information for the funding as well as the promotional materials once we get our food pantry set up. So thanks again, Kenmore. We just love you and we're so honored to be a part of this community. Look forward to many, many happy times together. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Elizabeth Mooney.
Hello, you can hear me, right? I hope.
Yep.
Great, thank you. My name is Elizabeth Mooney. I live in Kenmore. I'd like to support what David Morton, Janet Hayes, and Staci Valencia just came in to make comments about. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the city for its efforts to work with citizens in endorsing House Bill 1057. Thanks also to Representative Jerry Paulette for writing it. You know, it enables all citizens to lodge a complaint when our use of public lands is deterred by noxious odors that also may be toxic. And I think that's really important for full disclosure, that people in our community know that those may be very toxic. This is a step in the right direction, albeit small, to improve our air quality overall. And it seems incredible that under the current law, my voice on these matters is silenced if I try to complain about odors in the downtown Kenmore area or the Burt Gilman Trail. House Bill 1057 made it, and this is good news, to February 12th executive session in the Environment and Energy Committee. Please, council and public, support House Bill 1057 by calling your friends, calling committee members, go to ledge.wad.gov or call Representative Joe Fitzgibbon, 564-888-2362 to support it. Please, we need it to pass and become law across this great state. I would like to stress also, council, that this is not the only avenue for addressing issues of air emissions or toxins that may be coming from the Kenmore asphalt facility. These are not the only avenues available to our city, and I strongly encourage the city council and staff to pursue every course of action within your power to ensure as highest priority the health of the people and environment of North Lake Washington. This includes enforcement of existing ordinances or development of future laws to ensure the health and safety of its citizens, its businesses, its visitors, and environment. We want to be known as the healthiest green city in our state of Washington, with our special job as the stewards of the habitat at the North Shore line of Lake Washington. Please help us do that. We have a ways to go, but tell all your friends from here all the way to Eastern Washington to please support House Bill 1057. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rose H. previously had your hand raised. If you raise your hand now, we can call on you. Otherwise, I see no further hands raised.
Rose Hendricks.
One moment. Rose?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm so sorry, I did change my mind, but I'll just go anyway. Hi, my name is Rose Hendricks. I live in Kenmore. I just wanted to say that I appreciated that Kenmore is continuing its commitment to housing accessibility through ARCH. Our forecast this week is for life-threateningly low temperatures, and it just really stresses the need for our unsheltered and unstably housed neighbors to be able to be inside. So thank you for that. That's it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else wishing to be heard? Thank you all for your comments tonight. We truly appreciate from hearing from you. So next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda stands passed unanimously. Next item on our agenda is a Regional Coalition for Housing, ARCH, 2021 work program and budget for 2021 housing trust fund projects. Ms. Owsley.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We are with you tonight to present 2 items for your action from ARCH, a Regional Coalition for Housing. And we all well know that affordable housing is the #1 goal that the council adopted at its retreat earlier this year. And ARCH is comprised of 15 East King County cities as well as King County. And each year we bring the budget and work program for each council's action. I represent the city on Rob's behalf on the executive board, and the executive board has reviewed and recommended that both of these items, the work program and budget, be moved along for council ratification. I would say that the contribution from Kenmore is the same as last year, and it will go to provide technical support to projects that have been funded in the past, but also to carefully review proposals for Housing Trust Fund funding. And that will be the second or third, I guess, item that you will be asked to take action on is funding recommendations for 3 projects for Housing Trust Fund funding this year. Joining us is Lindsay Masters, who is the executive manager for ARCH. And Lindsay, do you want to have any other comments about the work program and budget before the council deliberates on that?
Just to recognize that the executive board put a lot of thought into crafting that at a really difficult time last May, when there was a lot of uncertainty around city budgets. And so we really appreciate being able to kind of continue on with our basic operations and maintain the programs that we've built up to date.
Thank you. So, Mayor, do you want to call for any discussion on the housing trust, I'm sorry, the work program and budget?
Sure. Do we have any questions on the work plan or budget for ARCH? Councilmember Shubnik and then Councilmember Kruger.
Yeah, Lindsay, thank you so much for coming and putting together these materials. I mean, ARCH is just, critical for pulling together the partners and providing, the glue to make a lot of these projects happen. And I was just struck by, the scope of what, ARCH is trying to accomplish and with the really small amount of resources. So I guess that was just sort of one reflection is, that's good and bad. And I do have a question, in terms of just sort of presenting, what is the focus and I don't know if there's a way to sharpen that up so that we can, get a clear sense of, what are the major priorities. I appreciate everything you're doing for and with our city. I did have a question about, it looked like there were maybe just 4 proposals and 3 were selected. So I wanted to kind of confirm that. And then if you can just talk a little bit about how projects are selected for the work program. I'm sure we've heard it in the past, but I would love a refresher.
Sure. And I want to step back and say the item I think you were discussing now is the
work program and budget, which is our organizational work program. I also have a presentation that will follow this about the trust fund projects that are a separate action. So I'll try to keep those separate. For the work program itself, a lot of those activities are carried year to year. They comprise sort of the key programs that have been built up over the last few decades and have really grown to a size, as you say, that is impressive and has built up over time. Running the trust fund is kind of the biggest program. That's where we've produced the most housing. We solicit applications each year. We review those. We vet them with the Citizen Advisory Board before they come to you. And then we do all the work of contracting with the organizations that build and then ultimately own and operate the housing. And then we have some level of monitoring of those projects over time. There's a whole other set of policies and programs kind of in the land use and incentive arena. And those are other strategies cities have put in place to create affordable units through a wide variety of means. It looks different in every city. And we have a role in kind of assisting with the development of those programs up front. Again, working with the developers when they are ready to build, to develop covenants and contracts. And then we have an even greater role in monitoring those up front. And that's some of the capacity we put in place last year to have a more dedicated focus on that monitoring, so that we make sure when you've gone to all this trouble to create the affordable housing that it actually operates as such, that the rents are really kept low and that the tenants occupying the units are income qualified. Our home ownership program is the other body of work that comes out of a lot of those incentive programs, and that is the creation of long-term resale restricted ownership housing. So we've got a couple of dedicated staff, and it's a bit of a more labor-intensive program, but it really yields incredible outcomes for people who are able to access first-time home ownership in East King County, where they otherwise probably never would have had an opportunity. There's a lot of other things in the work program. I think to your point of like, how do we determine our priorities? The last couple of years, I have asked the board to elevate kind of 3 to 5 things that they most want us to focus on. So if you look in your attachment, you'll see called out what those priorities are. The last couple of years, we've really elevated the monitoring and stewardship function. We've also put in place a goal that we hope to realize this coming year, that we will establish some kind of measurable targets as a coalition, that will start putting a number on what we're trying to achieve as a coalition, and then start measuring and reporting on that to you in the future. So more to come on that. That's in our plan this year. And then we also have an organizational assessment as a part of that is just getting underway now. That is getting at that issue of, as ambitious as many of our plans are, and as many of new cities have become in the realm of affordable housing, how are we matching that with our capacity? Where are our gaps and opportunities? So we have a lot we want to do this year, and we want to keep all those existing programs going. So we're grateful to you for your continued support.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilmember Kugler.
Thank you. Ms. Masters, thank you so much for coming tonight. It's obvious from the documents that you provided that a lot of thought and coordination went into the development of the work plan and the proposed budget. I have 2 questions that are more for my better understanding of how some of this works. One is, I'm wondering what happens after the 50-year affordable lease terms end, if there is a plan already in place for how to preserve the affordable housing long-term. And I was also wondering if you could explain what the parity goals are, or is that part of the goal setting that you described a little bit ago?
Good questions. So depending on the project, the term of a covenant may be 50 years, it may be for the life of the project. We try when it's a land use program to set up affordability for the life of the project, so that there really is no expiration. For projects that we directly finance with city funding, there are financing reasons that we have to limit the term of the covenant typically to 50 years. So what conceivably would happen at the end of 50 years is our loan would come due, we would require repayment of the loan and all the principal and interest, and then we could release the covenant. In practice, our goal is permanent affordability. And so we work with mission-driven organizations who share that goal with us and have an interest in extending our loan, not necessarily recoup, the city being repaid what we put into the project, but that we keep creating an incentive to extending. And a lot of times before we've reached the 50 years, there will be some opportunity to refinance, potentially put additional funding in at a future date and extend the affordability that way. So generally the goal is permanent affordability, but there may be some limited times where it may be wise to just recoup the investment and look for other places to invest the funds.
That makes sense. And then what about the parity goals?
Yeah, so the parity goals, while not our top priority this year, we have had in our goal to update those. They were developed many years ago, I think, with a lot of input from cities and city councils to try to create a baseline standard based on population, jobs, and housing growth targets that would sort of create some rough proportionality between the need and the demand that cities generated and what they contribute. We have not revisited those goals since I've come to ARCH. I've been here a little over 2 years now. And so I think the bigger issue for us has been that the need has gone up so dramatically. The interest in affordable housing has really grown, but we haven't really raised the goal. So that it's something we want to do together, and come to a consensus on, and it's a tricky issue, but it is in our longer term plans to revisit those goals.
Thank you.
Councilmember File.
Thank you. In looking at the items today, it seems to me that in Kenmore's past, we really haven't looked at a community land trust, setting aside land today, preserving it for tomorrow for affordable housing. Instead, we watch those land rates continue to rise and hope to attract builders to build affordable housing. I don't really see anything in here hinting at recommending this approach, although it's very adaptable and works well elsewhere. Has it been considered in the past that I'm not aware of, or?
I can't speak to all the past history, what might have come up, but the community land trust is kind of a umbrella concept, and there are programs that operate kind of across the spectrum underneath that umbrella. We have provided funding over the years to Habitat for Humanity of East King County, and now kind of broader Seattle King County area, that operates a model that is essentially a community land trust where Habitat operates the underlying HOA. There's long-term permanent affordability restrictions. They just don't call it a community land trust, but that is essentially what it is. Our own home ownership program is also kind of along that spectrum, where we have a long-term resale covenant, and we control the price of and appreciation of the homes and who's able to purchase. So it's another model. It's a little bit different from a community land trust because we don't own the underlying land, but we have similar controls that allow us to get at that permanent affordability. The main question is really, how do you scale something like that to a place where it can have a significant impact, and how do you generate the resources to acquire all the land and put it into kind of community or public ownership in the first place. And those are certainly goals we would support and be excited about, pursuing with a city that wanted to do that.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Lindsay, I appreciate you coming here, and I appreciate everything that Arch does. Kind of for the public, maybe, I was curious if you could go over really briefly what Arch has done to kind of address the issues that popped up a couple years ago, and ensuring that folks that are living in Arch units now are actually folks who need to live in Arch units and qualify for affordable housing. I know you've been doing a lot of work for that. I just thought it might be useful for the public to hear kind of the work you've done in the last bit to address that.
Yeah. So as I just mentioned, kind of our home ownership program is one of those programs that we were successful in growing it to a scale where we were having some significant impact, but we also had not really scaled up the resources to staff it over the years. And so we had sort of lost sight of some of the more proactive monitoring that you need to do to make sure that people who are purchasing the homes are actually occupying them. That was one of the principal things that came out a couple of years ago. We went through a really great process with our board and had a consultant assessment come and look at, one, what are the appropriate staffing levels for the program. We were able, with city support, to add some resources to that. And then we developed a suite of recommendations to kind of bring all of our policies and practices up to national best practices. So we've been hard at work the last couple of years going about implementing those methodically, starting with the things that were the most urgent and high priority, some of the policy-driven changes, but then also just doing really basic things like developing monitoring procedures. So every year now we have a dedicated staff person who is able to send a communication out to homeowners, able to audit publicly available information, to look at whether there's signs that someone might not be occupying the home. And we also have time to follow up when people contact us and let us know, hey, we think somebody might be renting out this home. Can you look into it? I'm pleased to say that this last year, when we repeated this monitoring that we did the year before, we had a much lower rate of issues. The first year it was a small rate to begin with, maybe about 5% of the homes in the program. But this last year is even less than that. So I feel like the efforts have paid off already. And that, they were just some things that were overdue for us to work on.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, if
Yep.
I could, I just want to compliment Lindsay on her leadership, particularly in really taking on that issue. And she worked really effectively with the board, and we're just very, very pleased with how it's going.
Thank you.
So Lindsay, are you ready to get the budget and work program? You're done talking about that?
Yep.
Okay. So the chair would entertain a motion then to approve the Arch 2021 budget and work program.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on that? Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember File,
Yes.
Councilmember Marshall. I see a nodding head. That's a yes. Councilmember Kugler,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herbig,
Yes.
Councilmember Shrubnik,
Yes.
Mayor Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember O'Kane.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Are we also through with the recommended housing trust fund projects? Lindsay, have you discussed that?
I do have a presentation that I'm going to share. Okay. And should I be the one to share my screen? All right.
Yeah.
Give this a try. Okay. Does that look okay?
Looks great.
All right. I am sad to be standing in for my staff person, Klaus, who had a family emergency. He really is the expert on all these projects, but I'll do my best. And if there's questions I cannot answer, we will be sure to follow up with you. I'm going to quickly give you just some background information about the trust fund. It is a program that's been around over 30 years, so it's accomplished a lot, and just thought it might be good to take some time to look back on some of those accomplishments, and then I'll walk through the actual projects and funding recommendations. So as I said, the trust fund has been around quite some time. We have funded approximately 4,500 units or beds across East King County. We have funded just about every type of housing that is out there, from senior to family housing, workforce housing. We've been at the cutting edge of transit-oriented development projects, and we have put money into developments that serve some of the most vulnerable in our community. There's been a set of principles that have developed over the years that really drive how we try to evaluate proposals from year to year and some of the longer term goals we're trying to accomplish. I won't read all of these, but we are, broadly speaking, trying to create impact over a broad geographic area, a diverse set of needs. We're really trying to leverage your local resources because we know how scarce they are, and so we're trying to maximize that return by bringing in other private and public dollars. We are concerned with the long-term sustainability of these projects and investments, and we are also working hard each year to try to align our local priorities with those of other funders at the county and state level in particular. High-level snapshot of sort of the geographic distribution of projects. This map actually has both the developments that have been funded through the trust fund there in the green dots, and as well as all of the developments where we've been able to create some set aside of affordable housing in private market projects through incentive programs. And I'm just pleased and impressed. I can't take credit for all the work that came before me, just how well we've been able to distribute housing opportunities across East King County and make sure they're not concentrated in one particular area, and really just trying to maximize housing choice. We have started to spend a little bit more time across all of our programs trying to look at the demographics of able to access this housing resource. We're sort of at the beginning of those efforts, trying to understand sort of where the data has had issues, what the data means, where some of our gaps might be, and some strategies to address those. Biggest takeaway for the trust fund is that we are serving some of the lowest income populations that there are in East King County. The vast majority of households who reported in annual reports last year were under 30% of median income. Another significant share were under 50% of median income. So there's an income chart right here that can sort of tell you what that means in terms of annual household income for different household sizes. Just a couple other slices of data across the same population. There's a pretty significant share of single parent households who are able to access housing through projects that we funded, as well as a fairly significant share of homeless families and individuals as a percentage of all the households who are occupying the projects currently. And then we wanted to make sure that in looking at race and ethnicity, we are sort of benchmarking that against the broader population in East King County. So we can see that we've been successful, relatively speaking, in being able to provide a greater amount of housing for Black and African American households, as well as Hispanic households, compared to sort of the broader housing supply in East King County. So on to the recommendations. The first project before you is called Eastgate Supportive Housing. This is a development that is going to be owned and operated by Plymouth Housing. They are working with Horizon Housing as a development consultant, and this really emerged as a partnership with Congregations for the Homeless, which had been working with King County to site a year-round men's shelter in Bellevue, a project that's been in development for a number of years that Arch also has funded a couple different times. And we came to you last year to secure the last piece of funding for that project. This is going to be co-located kind of on the same campus, and it will provide some opportunities for people who we hope living in the shelter will be able to kind of realize that permanent housing and longer term stability. It's going to have 93 apartments that will be affordable for people earning very minimal income. It's a model called permanent supportive housing. And I did include here a slide just to talk for a minute about what that housing model is. This is new to East King County. It's a model that is well known nationally and has been developed across Seattle in a number of different locations by a number of different housing providers. Plymouth is one of the most well known and successful in doing this model. The basics here are it is permanent long-term housing. There's no expected time limit to how long people are staying in the housing. And then the biggest key to success here is the intensive wraparound services that are provided as a part of living here. It's really designed to help people who have significant barriers to housing stability and who really need that intensive staffing and support. There's often a lot of questions about the buildings themselves, how they integrate into the community. There's a set of best practices that have been developed over time to make sure that not only are the residents well supported, but the building has support to integrate well into the community, and that typically is accompanied with 24-hour staffing and secured front entry, as well as significant kind of space for community building. As I mentioned, this is part of a bigger campus, not only with the year-round men's shelter that will be operated by Congregations for the Homeless, but we'll also have a large workforce housing component with roughly 350 units of housing. So kind of a whole continuum at a mix of different incomes and populations here. This is on land owned by King County in the process of being transferred after approval by the County Council. The next project here is just down the way in Bothell. This is one we brought to you last year for partial funding when we wanted to kind of show the project some support and try to advance the acquisition. They are purchasing the site from the city of Bothell, and so this has been a high priority for the city. The project last year wasn't entirely ready. They still had some work to do on the design, some environmental conditions, the zoning issues. We're happy that much of that work has been completed now, so we were able to realize the full funding request. We're joined as well by King County and the State Housing Trust Fund in providing full funding awards for this project. It's going to be a senior population. They are aiming really high on energy efficiency, leveraging some state grants for that. And we're generally excited. The city of Bothell is excited to see this move forward. And then finally, we have another project developed by Horizon Housing and also their partner Inland Group. This is something that came up a little bit later in the funding round than usual. Was a site that they had an opportunity to take advantage of and get site control on, and had been in discussions with Microsoft about kind of modeling some new financing strategies here to create not only more deeply affordable housing, but also kind of workforce housing at a slightly higher income level. Arch's funding is going to be targeted to the more deeply affordable units from anywhere at 30 to 50% and 60% of median income. They're a little bit earlier in the financing process, and so there's some things that are fluid, but we are excited that there's interest by Microsoft here, and we're able to take advantage of a program we put in place last year with Microsoft to leverage some of their funds as bridge financing. So they've already committed to putting in $8 million towards that. This screen here gives you a snapshot of all the other funds that are coming into these projects. There's a sizable rate of leverage for you. So for the $5 million across all the Arch cities that we're putting in, the total cost of these projects is going to be somewhere around $164 million. This is an even greater rate of leverage than we typically have achieved in the past. Historically, we're roughly about 10% of project financing. So we're really stretching our dollars a lot farther this year. Some of that probably is to do with the amount of funding we advertise. So we're excited that all the projects are looking like they're going to go forward. And then this gives you a breakdown by cities of what we are pooling as a coalition and the request specifically to Kenmore to help support these projects. And I believe that's the last slide, so I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions? Yes, Councilmember Kugler.
I have a question about the percentage per city. How is that determined? Is there a standard equation or percentage based on population or something?
We just allocate it by the percentage that you've contributed. So we look at your available funding balance based on your contributions, and we just distribute it proportionately. So those ideally are based on the parity goals, but ultimately come down to what each city chooses to contribute in a year.
Anybody else? I don't see any further questions. So are we ready to move the trust fund projects? Lindsay?
Yes.
Great. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the recommended housing trust fund projects.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember O'Kane.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember Shrubnik.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herbig.
Yes.
Councilmember Kugler.
Yes.
Councilmember Marshall.
Yes.
Councilmember File.
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right.
Thank you, Council, and thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you very much, Lindsay.
Thank you as well.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda, staff report.
Nothing, Your Honor. Thank you.
Nothing. Next item then is council member reports and comments. Councilmember O'Kane.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Councilmember Marshall.
Thanks to everybody for your input and coordination in this meeting tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Kugler.
Just one update. I've been meeting with all of the department directors and getting a better understanding of all the city operations. And I just wanted to comment that the meetings have really reminded me of one of our city's greatest assets, which I think are really behind the scenes and that are so not visible always to the public, and that is our city staff. They work so incredibly hard. And I think you all know this, probably having met with all of them before. And I think it's really evident from the work plans that they shared in our council retreat, but they really are so tremendous. And I think also the meetings have really highlighted to me that we really have a strong asset in our city manager. I think his steady, positive leadership is just so fantastic for attracting and keeping the quality staff that we have. So I've really enjoyed these meetings, and I am looking forward to wrapping up a few more over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think you realize what we've all realized for some time now. What a great staff and city manager we have, and it's really good now that you've been exposed to it and you can see for yourself that when we talk about how great the staff is and that we truly mean it. We're very, very fortunate. Councilmember Shrubnik.
Oh, I totally second what Councilmember Kugler said. No meetings to report. I did just want to also thank our city manager for putting a bow on and doing the final work on the council rules, which I think are part of our next packet. And just, want to remind everybody the importance of that to the end of keeping our wonderful staff. When we have, we all have amazing, great ideas, staff included, but, all of us here. And, we have now a clear process for bringing those to agendas via council comments first, then to an agenda. Then we see if we have bandwidth and we want to prioritize that for staff work. So it's a deliberate process. So, that is the process. Unless something is truly an emergency, it needs to, like the pandemic, it needs to follow that process. And it's rare that we as council members have something that's truly a fire like that. I think this also extends to the importance of, holding back on our many ideas that we might want to share with staff during the week, and just, holding those to our one-on-ones. I know I am a culprit, just like many of us. So I, even today I thought, oh, I'm going to shoot an email off to Rob about X. And then I thought, no, it can wait. So we just all have to, really be mindful of our contribution to those issues, and respect our processes that we now have in place. Thanks.
Councilmember File.
Thank you. Today I took part in a meeting with the People for Climate Action and Kenmore Coalition, Clean Air Coalition, and our King County Council member Rob Dembowski, members of our community, along with Mayor Baker, and our representative on getting a little bit more support to move House Bill 1057 through. We are very fortunate that our King County Council member is going to be signing on a letter of support to the committee, which is great. It has a hearing on Friday. So if you haven't yet contacted those committee members, I encourage you to do so. I also had a good phone meeting with School Board Director David Hogan, and they're very interested in an aquatic center. There was a follow-up email, and so we passed that off to our city manager, which is great. So for next steps, and from there, I think I'll just leave it there, but thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Nothing to add.
Other than working on 1057 and talking with different various representatives, members of the committee, I don't really have anything else to report. So if there is no further business to come in front of us, my goodness, look at the time. We are adjourned.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Night, everyone.
Good
Thanks,
night.
everyone.